So this is the screen where you'll see whatever's been sent.
Yes, okay.
And the holy books.
That's fine. Yes, very good.
So, yes, you've got your water, the documents will be presented here, the Quran will be asked to swear, and I will hand these to the court to pass to you, which will be on your witness statement. They're going to be passed.
please ask you to complete your full name and occupation for the record?
My name is Affan, and my occupation is the Managing Director of Affan Innovative Structures.
Thank you. Please place your right hand on the holy book.
Okay.
Raise your left hand and read from this card.
I swear by Almighty God to tell the truth and nothing but the truth.
Thank you.
Dr. Affan, if I can hand out the copy of your CV that was omitted from your witness statement. Can we start by looking at, you've got 4 witness statements in this matter. If we can go to the combined bundle at page 603, please. You should have your first witness statement.
Yes.
Please have a copy of your statements. 603, combined bundle. You see a document headed Witness Statement of Dr. Affan.
Yes, I do.
And at page 2, or page 2, which is 604, is that your signature?
Yes, it is.
And have you had a chance to read this first witness statement recently?
I have.
Is it true to the best of your knowledge and belief?
It is.
If we then go to the document headed second witness statement of Dr. Affan, which is at page 646. Do you see the document, second witness statement of Dr. Affan? Do you recognise this as your second witness statement?
Yes, I do.
649, which is page 4 of that document.
Yes.
You see a signature dated the 24th of August 2022. Is that your signature?
Yes, it is.
And have you had a chance to read this second statement recently?
I have.
Is it true to the best of your knowledge and belief?
It is.
Thank you. And if we can then go to the document headed third witness statement, which is at page 695, combined bundle. Do you recognise that as your third witness statement?
I do.
And if we go to page 9, which is page 703, there's a signature date of the 26th of April 2024. Is that your signature?
It is.
And have you read this third witness statement recently?
I have.
Is it true to the best of your knowledge and belief?
It is.
And finally, if we go to page 704, and if you can go to the document headed fourth witness statement of Dr. Affan. Do you recognise that as your fourth witness statement?
I do.
And then if we go to page 5, which is page 708 of the combined bundle, 708. There's a signature dated the 5th of July 2024. Is that your signature?
It is.
And have you had a chance to read this before?
I have read it this morning.
And is it true to the best of your knowledge and
It
belief?
is.
And just on your CV, can you confirm your educational qualifications?
I'm a first-class degree from Edinburgh University and a PhD in structural engineering from Trinity College, Cambridge.
Thank you. There'll be some questions.
Mr. Affan, good afternoon. I've only just seen your this CV, you'll understand, but it probably matters not. So can you explain what the relationship is between Affan Building Systems and Affan Innovative Structures, LLC?
Affan Building System is a trading company. Affan Innovative Structure is a contracting company. I own both of them.
I'm going to ask you to keep your voice up a little because
I'll try my best.
I rather dropped that
Okay.
last answer. And Mantech Middle East?
It's the company I worked for. Would be for setting up Affan building systems, and I was the agent for them for the BMU systems,
The agent for them for?
for building maintenance systems.
Uh-huh. Maintaining all kinds of buildings, or?
No, I don't maintain. I sell the machines which are used for cleaning the facades.
I see. And Miro?
Miro is the company I first worked for in Germany as a structural engineer from 1988 until 1990, and then I came and set up Miro Middle East in the UAE. I was working for them from 1996 until 2000.
So basically, after Cambridge, you did a spell as a junior lecturer
I did, yes,
in engineering,
in engineering.
and then you went to Germany. You went to Surrey, and then you went to Germany,
Correct.
and you stayed in Germany until you came to Dubai in the 90s, in 95.
Before that, I was acting for Miro in Saudi Arabia for a project, Janadria, and then I came to Dubai.
So you're pretty familiar with life in Dubai.
I've been here for 30 years.
And you have a house in France, is that right?
That's correct.
And how much time do you spend in France, and how much time do you spend here?
Lately, nothing, because I'm not allowed to travel. But beforehand, I spent maybe 1 or 2 weeks. My wife stays there most of the time.
Sorry, can you take that bit by bit? Now you spend most of your time here,
For the last 3 years, I have been in this country, yes.
and unable to travel
Correct.
because
Of BAM.
of the disputes, and
Correct.
you've been involved in a lot of litigation, I understand.
Correct.
And your wife is in France, and she stays there most of the time.
No. She stays here, but in the summer, she goes to France, and in the winter,
I
she
see.
stays here.
Yes.
That is the purpose of the house.
I want to ask you now about the beginning of the history of your relationship with BAM.
Yes.
Did you know the management of BAM?
No,
Not at all.
not at all.
But your company was one of the specialist facade contractors here in the UAE.
Correct.
And did you have international work, or mostly here?
We did some work in Qatar and in Saudi Arabia and in Egypt.
And in Egypt?
Simply in Egypt, supplied from here.
And this project, the Museum of the Future, when it came up, must have looked a very attractive project from a publicity point of view, as well as from a technical and architectural point of view.
I did like it. It's a very beautiful project, very challenging. And it would be the biggest project we had.
And would that be the biggest project you'd ever had?
Yes, until that point.
Now, if you look, please, at page 746 in the bundle. That is the first invitation to tender that you received. Is that right?
Correct.
Would you like to look down that document? Did you have any contact with anybody at BAM before that?
Not at all.
Do you know how it was they got hold of your name?
There are very few companies who could do this type of work. Affan is one of them.
And you were asked for a tender by the 30th of June 2016.
Presumably, yes.
And you would have had with this a substantial documents package.
At that stage, I would not even look at it. There was Paul Haslam, who is in charge of that.
Could you tell us about Paul Haslam? He appears in your tender proposals as the
He's a director
As
of
the
the
dir-
company,
as a director,
and he was the commercial manager of the company. He is in charge of making the tenders, contacting the customers. I only get involved when it comes down to be a serious project.
I think I heard you say I only get involved when it comes down to being a serious project.
Correct. That means when we know that we have a good chance to get the job. Then
I
I
see.
look at it technically.
So you're talking about serious chance of success,
Yes.
rather than I'm too grand to get in touch,
No.
involved with
It was
anything
a
but the
serious
big
chance
ones.
of success.
And would you then have seen from Mr. Haslam the documents inviting this tender?
Presumably, yes.
Because it must have been a fairly exciting
I
invitation.
would not get
to
involved
tender.
because we get the same type of project on a daily basis, even from Mr. Killer, the architect, even today. We have
That
a
be
big-
as may be, but this is a pretty stunning building, isn't it?
The others are just as stunning.
I see. And you knew, did you not, right from the outset, that this was going to be a project where you would have full design responsibility?
Not really. Not normal.
You appreciated that it would be important for your bid to be attractive, not just in terms of price, but in terms of the building or the facade you were offering to produce.
We had looked at this one here, and for that purpose, we actually made a mock-up, a complete mock-up of what is supposed to be built to understand it.
You heard Mr. Hussain open this case, didn't you, on Monday, or did you?
I did.
And he introduced it as very much a landmark project for Dubai to be proud of.
I have many landmarks projects also in Abu Dhabi to be proud of as well.
And he placed considerable emphasis on the Dubai Future Foundation as very significant owners. With their
We did
connections
not even
with
know
the
at the Dubai Future Foundation that they were owners. We only had contact with Miraz, in fact. Only later we found out who the client was.
Now, the original letter of invitation sought a quote by the 30th of June, as you see in big letters in the middle of the page.
Yes.
And you didn't quite quote it by the 30th of June, but you did submit an initial tender on the 15th of July. Is that right?
Yes. I presume so. I really have no idea at that time.
Well, I'm going to ask you to look, please, at I-5332.
Okay.
That is in the electronic bundle, and it's a folder 10 in exhibit RAS 12. And I'd like you to look first, please, to internal page 2. Well, perhaps you can look at this page first. We've gone on. I'd like you to look first at the date of this is the 4th of August.
Okay.
This was, can we go back a page, please, operator? This was the 4th of August, and that says further to the issue of our tender proposals dated the 15th of July. So you nearly made the date, just a fortnight later.
I could read the first of the order, but it was signed by Paul. I would not have been involved at that stage.
Well, wouldn't you have known that Paul had sent this off?
No.
Would you have seen it at all?
Maybe it was put on my desk. I looked at it, and it was a tender.
Well, I'm going to ask you to have a look at it, please. Go to the next page. And you see there that the advanced, what is quoted for, is for the main facade, 4 different categories of cladding, EWS 1 to 4, and it said advanced structural composite facade panels, double curved, nominal size, 9 metres by 2.2 metres.
Correct.
There's been some suggestion that one of the changes in this case was a change from single curved panels to double curved panels. But it's quite apparent from this letter that from the outset, the very first tender proposal, you were proposing double curved panels.
Please point out on the, yes, we did, and the dimensions are very, very important. The 2.2 did not come out from our nominal size, it's based on our machines.
The nominal size, nominal is an English word,
I do know that.
and, well, that I might expect. It doesn't mean maximum size.
But it doesn't mean other different size.
It
Normally
certainly
you refer
doesn't
to
mean
nominal size if you say 9 by 2.5, but not when you specify 2.2 meter.
it certainly doesn't mean that every panel is going to be the same size, does it?
It does say that please stick to those dimensions. It could be less, but cannot be more.
Why do you say could be less but may not be more?
Because more I cannot make them. Simple.
If you wanted to say maximum length, you could have said maximum length.
I did not have to say there's a tender at this stage.
I appreciate that, but we'll go forward.
Yes.
And we know that you were going to cover these panels in stainless steel. At that stage, 0.6 millimetre thick,
Correct.
and you then discuss the makeup of the panel.
I would
Would
like
you
to also
look,
to point
please?
out to you is 0.4 to 0.6.
Yes, it does say
further.
0.4 to
Yes.
0.6, I'm so sorry.
So we were very careful of what we had said, and we're very specific.
I'd like you to go, please, to the table on page 16 of this exhibit. And would you look, please, at line 35?
I don't
Point
have it in
13.
front of me. Please, so if you tell me where it is, I have a page in front
It's
of
the
me.
third line.
Third line.
Well, line's not very specific. The third box down and the third box across on this table. This is really a response to some queries, I
Yes.
suspect. Point 13, all panels are double curved.
Correct.
Not some panels, all
All
panels
panels,
are
yes.
double curved. There came a time when your company became the employer's preferred contractor. Do you
Yes.
know when that was?
Beginning of January, I think. The following year, 2017.
The beginning of January, not before that.
No.
So you were basically in the dark as to where you stood in relation to the competition
Correct.
before January, which was when you provided your second set of tender proposals. And did you personally, or to your knowledge, did Paul Haslam have any contact with BAM as to why your proposal might look that much more attractive than the others?
I don't know. Paul Haslam definitely had contact with BAM. I did not. It was his job to do that, not my job.
Well, I appreciate that, but the senior management of your company must be in pretty close contact with each other day by day. Paul Haslam lives in Dubai as well, doesn't he?
He does.
And the facade world in Dubai is not, as you've explained, a big one.
You asked the question if I had in contact with BAM. I said no.
I asked if, to your knowledge, did Paul Haslam have contact?
Yes, he
with
had.
BAM? And what I want to know is whether he told you anything about the reasons why you might be moving ahead of the competition in the race to get this job.
Yes, we made a panel, we made a sample, we showed it to the customer before that. It cost a lot of money, and the customer liked it.
And the attraction, I think you heard Mr. Moranti give evidence, didn't you?
Say it again?
You heard Mr. Moranti give evidence, did you?
Yes, I did.
Yes. The attraction of your offer was that you were producing larger panels, correct?
Yes,
And therefore fewer panels would be required.
correct.
They'd span floor to floor.
I did not say that.
I'm not asking you whether you said it. I'm just saying that was the attraction, and you
Could
knew
well
that.
be the case, but it was not a reason for that.
I'm really sorry, Dr. Affan, I'm not hearing you very well.
I said, I'm not so sure if that was the attraction. You have to ask BAM what the attraction was.
I see. But certainly you were producing a plan that would roughly come out at 950 panels, which I think was the end result, give or take a few.
To be honestly, I really do not know exact figure. Fernando would have known.
As
because,
against 3,000.
we definitely did not want to go beyond 2.2 because of the limitation of our machine.
You personally engineered Affan's design concept, did you not?
No, I did not.
Not at all.
No, not at all.
Do you know where BAM might have got the impression that you did?
I was privy to some of the meeting where it was very critical to understand what was being engineered. I'm a structural engineer by profession, and they always ask my advice.
So because you were the one with the PhD in structural engineering
Correct.
from Cambridge and a former Cambridge
And they
lecturer,
asked me even about their steel structures. I was many times advising BAM about their steel structures, or have nothing to do with me.
you think they got the idea that you were doing the personal engineering, but you say you weren't.
Never had that. You remember, I am the managing director of a company. I don't sit down and do the design.
My Lord, Your Honour, I don't know whether the microphone can be turned up for the witness, but I'm finding it very difficult to hear. Maybe
As is,
please.
I'm sorry to say, dear, I am the managing director of a large company. I don't sit down and do the design work in person. I get advice how the design should be made, but I do not do the design.
I see. Now, Mr. Doyle wasn't challenged on the proposition that you'd done the bespoke engineering, but so be it, doesn't matter.
Maybe.
On the 25th of January 2017, you submitted your next tender proposals, page 859. And these were based on revision 3 of the original model, is that right?
I believe so, because by that time we had made the model. We had actually made a mock-up, and we were certain what to do and what not to do. So we were fairly familiar with what we can do, what we cannot do, and we proposed that in our proposal.
Now, the IFC documents had been prepared by the 11th of December, and revision C00 produced by the 26th of December. Did you see the IFC documents then?
No. I only saw it when we received the letter of intent.
The letter of intent.
Yes, that was the 2nd of March.
At page 862, there is the scope of works and the principal proposals.
Yes,
Mr. Moranti agreed that you signed off this tender proposal. Is
I
that
signed
true?
all the tender proposals. I'm the general manager of the company. I signed off, but I do not prepare them.
Do you read important tender proposals
I do.
thoroughly before you sign them off?
I do.
So you knew that you were tendering to produce the main facade with advanced structural composite facade panels, double curved, with a nominal size of 9 by 2.2.
Yes, and we made one sample beforehand, and it was part of our tender. And it was we made a mock-up, and it was available to everybody to see.
Do you know why it was that the thickness of the steel had increased from the range 0.4 mil to 0.6 mil
This is because of the IFC, because the client
to
wanted
0.8
it.
mil?
Yes, it was not us.
That was the
That was the client request. That was Bureau Happold instructions in the IFC to increase the size of the stainless steel from 0.4 and 0.6 to 0.8. We had actually proposed to reduce it to 0.6 because it would have been sufficient. But the BAM was of the opinion, do not change it, otherwise they will ask for variation.
otherwise they would.
They will reduction in the price if you had reduced the thickness. But it was not our proposal. It was written in the IFC as instructions.
Well, the IFC are documents that are issued for construction,
Yes.
on the basis of which you prepare your tender.
We did, and in that proposal must have been 0.8 millimeter thick stainless steel to be included. Please check the IFC drawings.
I'm not arguing with you, Dr. Affan. It's just you use the phrase, you use the word instruction in a rather odd sense.
Why?
Issued for construction are
Yes, issued for
the
construction.
drawings.
Yes. To be issued
And
for
if
construction.
I ask you to make me a pair of shoes size 11.5, it's odd to describe that as an instruction. That's simply a specification as to the size I want my shoes.
But if I want to make it 11.5, it has it's an instruction.
And if
What
you
is it?
come up with a
Was I come up with a different one? I said,
if you
"It's not
come
what I
up with a
want."
different size, I'm going to say, no, that's not what I asked for.
That's exactly.
You're not going to say, well, you instructed 11.5 and I've ignored it. You're going to do it.
Yes, you instructed me to do it this way.
The outer panel is said to be low iron laminated with sandblast strips and so forth. The inner panel 6 mil clear.
That is the glass.
That's the glass. But the panels themselves are to be made from GFRP, is that right?
Correct.
And that has a material called pre-preg.
Correct.
And how does the pre-preg fit to the panel, or fit in the panel? Where does that come in?
We make a mold. We lay up the pre-preg on the panel, and we put the mold with the pre-preg inside an oven under vacuum. I've actually issued a video how we build it. If you're welcome to see it. And that's how we do it.
Well, we'll have to think about the invitation to watch the video at some
Yes.
stage. But so the pre-preg effectively lines the mold, and pre-preg is a fabric, is it not?
No, it's a pre-impregnated fabrics.
It's a pre-impregnated. I was going to put it the other way around. It's a fabric pre-impregnated with epoxy resin.
Correct.
And then the fiberglass material,
This is the fabric.
Goes
is the
inside.
No, the fabric is the
the
fiberglass.
fabric is the fiberglass.
Sometimes it is carbon fiber.
I see.
And we use both.
Now, I understand that the pre-preg used for the ministry, the Museum of the Future, was unique and had been developed specially for this project, and it was the first of its type in the world.
We would like to think so, but it was not the case.
Would you look, please?
Just for information, every single aircraft is made of pre-preg. So it was
Would
not
you?
used. And that
Every
is
single
aircraft.
aircraft is made of pre-preg.
That's
Yes. We're not talking about every single aircraft being made of pre-preg. I'm
Every
talking
single-
about what makes this pre-preg special. And I'd like you please to look at page 2537.
Okay.
This is from much later on in the project. We're now at the 15th of
Okay.
June 2019.
Right.
And there was a fear in your mind that BAM were working with FiberX to make panels in competition with your panels after there was, to put it mildly, some trouble between them. And you said at one, could you go to the bottom of this letter, please? So you've signed this letter,
Yes, I did.
and you must have read it before signing it.
Yes, I have.
And go back to one, please. You said the panels of the Museum of the Future use epoxy prepreg having fire retardant properties.
Correct.
In fact, this prepreg is the first of its kind in the world and was specially developed for the Museum of the Future. Was that true when you wrote it?
I wrote it at the time, but meanwhile I found out that other people had done it.
You found out that what this was writing was untrue, or
No,
you found
I
out that
found
now
out
other people
that-
are making it?
Other people made it as well. I'm not the first.
Then or now?
At the time when I wrote it, it was the first one I have developed. We thought that we had developed it with Notus together. By the way, the pre-preg is not our production. It was Notus.
Pre-preg as a concept has been around for some time, hasn't it?
Since 1984.
Yeah. You were writing that this pre-preg was the first of its kind in the world, specially developed for the Museum of the Future.
Because
is that
of the-
true or not true?
It's true.
And I took it that the reason it was the first of its kind in the world and specially developed for the Museum of the Future was that it had fire retardant properties.
Correct.
And those properties were of particular importance to you because this was going to be a museum in Dubai with a very strict Dubai civil defense regime.
It's nothing to do with the museum. Every project is like that.
Yes. It may have nothing to do with the museum, that it's a museum, but the fire retardant properties were particularly important because this was a flagship public building.
Not because
in
of the
Dubai.
flagship, it's because of the regulations in Dubai. Nothing to do with the flagship.
Well, you're smiling, Dr. Affan, but I'm struggling to understand why it was that with all the buildings that had been put up in the past, with a pre-preg that was less special,
There have
you
never been a
developed this
building-
particular special pre-preg for
I don't
the
know if any
Museum of the
building was
Future.
built in a pre-preg, so I'd be very happy to advise me which building was done in a pre-preg. I'd be very happy to learn that because I don't know, I'm not aware of any building.
You're the academic engineer, Dr. Affan.
So I'm trying to
I'd
tell
like
you, there
to
was
tell
not.
me-
You put a word in my mouth. They said many buildings, and I'll tell you, it has never been a building.
There's never been any building built in pre-preg
No,
in Dubai,
not in Dubai, worldwide,
worldwide,
except Mecca.
except one in Mecca.
Yes.
Did you build that?
No, my neighbor built it,
So
and I can tell you
This
which one it
pre-preg
is. It's the
is-
clock tower in Mecca.
is not just unique in being a special fire retardant prepreg, it's a unique item.
Yes, it is.
We'll go on, please, to 868. You were doing a visual mock-up, but you've told His Honour that you had already done a mock-up panel.
Yes.
Was the visual mock-up that you were offering to do free of charge here the panel you'd already produced?
I had produced the panel prior to making the tender document, which shows exactly what we are offering.
And was there something else involved in the visual mock-up that you were kindly providing free of charge to BAM?
I did not provide it to Hisham. It was our mock-up. I never provided it. I just showed the people what we can do.
That confuses me because looking at page 868, the words say visual mock-up as provided by Affan at tender stage, that is, provided, FOC.
We had ownership of the visual mock-up provided to inspect.
So this should say, as made available for inspection.
And that's what they did. What would BAM
What
do
if
with
they'd
a visual
wanted to
mock-up?
do NDT, non-destructive testing?
They could do whatever they liked if they wanted to. We provided a mock-up. The mock-up belonged to us.
And if they wanted to take it and cut it to bits to check it out?
We could have talked about it and we could have done something
You
about
could
it.
have.
We could have spoken about it. I have no issue to hide anything. We already incurred the cost for the mock-up anyway.
It's just that that looks very much as if it's a present.
No, it was not.
I'm not saying what people in BAM would have wanted to do with this.
I don't
present,
even know where to
but,
put it.
At any rate, going on, you've explained in relation to the first tender that there were various cladding types at EWS 1 to 4. And then I'd like you to look at 869, please. Now, this was the Bill of Quantities number 03 before the revision 3.
Correct.
And this had been issued, I suspect, to all the contractors that put in a tender,
Correct.
which is why it says contractor to price either option 1 or 2 facade system.
They are totally different.
Because facade enclosure option 1, GRP panels, that was the one you chose to quote for.
Two companies quoted for the same one, myself and Arabian Profile Company.
Yourself and Arabian Profile
yes.
Company. And do you know who quoted for option 2, which I think was a rain screen glass and steel structure?
There are many of them who would have done that. I have actually seen who actually offered it, and there's about 5 or 6 different contractors.
But you didn't price for that because that wasn't your business.
No.
Would you look, please, at 887? Paragraph 1.4.2, the operator come down.
Okay.
The first stipulation there, and this of course comes from you, no site instruction will be commenced unless agreed in writing.
Correct.
And then the second point on variations was variations will be priced and the revised price will be submitted for approval and written acceptance shall be issued prior to commencement of fabrication, installation, or omission.
I could read that, yes.
Now, of course, later on we get the letter of intent, we get the acceptance, and we get the subcontract. But this represented what your intention was about instructions and variations, these 2 bullet points.
Correct?
And you wanted to be very clear that before there was to be any instruction upon which you would act, and before there would be any variation,
We have received instructions on a literally weekly basis from BAM and the employer to change the facade. Now we receive these instructions on a daily
if
basis.
you don't
from the
mind,
day.
Dr. Affan, it's better if you answer my questions than
Please repeat the
interrupt.
question then one more time.
So my question is that you were concerned in presenting these proposals to make it absolutely clear that there would be, in the ultimate documentation, provision that no site instruction will be commenced unless it was agreed in writing. First point.
Correct?
And second point, that variations would be priced and the revised price would be submitted for approval and written acceptance, issued prior to commencement of fabrication or installation or omission, because of course some things may be left out.
Correct.
Would you go please to 889? Now this is the responses to tender queries. So you've been asked a number of questions, and on the 3rd of August 2016 you put in these responses. And point 6, you see 15th of June 16, I think the date of the query. No effect on Affan proposals, but an IFC model of the steel die grid will be required upon award of the facade subcontract to enable completion development of the facade design and connection to the steel die grid.
Correct.
Sometimes called the dia grid and sometimes the die grid. Which do you prefer?
Doesn't really matter. I know what it is.
And one of the attractions of your proposal was that because the panels were spanning floor to floor, there would only need to be the installation of a dia grid strong enough to support them at the floor slab level.
This is not correct. I'm sorry to correct you. Every single point of the die grid is capable of supporting the facade.
So I am having some difficulty here.
Okay, every single point of the die grid is capable of supporting the facade. That is a structural element of the facade, and that's how the die grid was constructed. It was not.
Well, we'll look at another document in a moment.
You asked a question. So structurally speaking, every single part of the die grid, whether mid-span or at slab level, in fact, the slab had no effect on reinforcing the die grid. The slab came afterward.
Well, we'll look in a short while
You
to
can
the
do that as you
drawing
wish.
301,
Yes.
and you can comment on that. Would you go to point 11, please? You're quite clear there, and it looks as if you're answering point 9 as well, but since we haven't seen the question on point 9, it's not helpful. Affan propose a double curved facade.
Correct. Of the dimension 9 meter by 2.2 meter.
And we'll go to point 20, please. Fire resistance of die grid. Note whether facade is fixed to the die grid. Affan has assumed that any fire rating to the facade bracketry will be provided by others.
Correct.
So the dia grid is fixed to the panels are fixed to the dia grid, and there are brackets to fix them.
Repeat that again.
The panels are fixed to the diagrid by means of brackets.
Correct.
And all you're really saying here is where the fixings are, the brackets will be fire protected by others.
Whenever we provide a bracket, that bracket has to be fire proofed, just like the grid is.
I didn't hear that answer in full.
The-
Wherever you provide a bracket,
That bracket is a steel. It's not fireproofed.
yes,
It has to be fireproofed.
yes.
That was the point I'm taking.
And you're saying by others,
Correct. By the the steel contractor normally.
by the steel contractor. I'd like you now, please, to go to the electronic file 18, Exhibit 1. I don't know whether you've been in court when this has been
I have seen it,
looked
yes.
at before.
I have looked at it many times.
And it's also an exhibit to the joint statement.
Yes.
And you will appreciate then, and I don't think we need to take you to it, that the right-hand drawing on which the Katia model drawing, but I'll come to that and ask you about that, has been superimposed. What you see there is that superimposition, and that is your Katia model.
Okay, I would like to correct you. I heard it beforehand, and I am aware that you are not a technical person. This one here never intended to be as panelization. The model was
I
never.
simply can't hear you.
Okay.
I'm sorry, and this is an important.
The model
answer.
is not a Katia model. I checked. If it was, it must have been a slip of the tongue. And we had not been proposing to make horizontal panels in dark blue on the top either. We had not been proposing to make one big panel in blue covering 4 floors. We had not been proposing to make a red one which stops mid-air at the top. This one here is simply an interrogation of the different surfaces that the architect used to create his building.
I don't think there is any suggestion that the choice of colours is significant here.
But you have done so, and you can see it's a different color because you're referring to different colors and different things. But there
I'm
has never
referring
been
to
any
different colours with the
panelization.
measurements and so forth. Yes.
There was never been a panelization in this building. This is a simple photo sent to us, part of the architect photos, and we just colored it to interrogate the different surfaces making up this building.
Would you look, please, at 916?
Okay.
Now, I'm interested in your last answer because I don't understand how it is consistent with what you put in section 2.1, or signed off in section 2.1, in relation to the main facade of these formal tender proposals.
The CATIA model must have been a slip of the tongue, was never intended. I have checked in between yesterday and the day before today. If we had ever created a CATIA model, we had never created a CATIA model until the 7th of March. So if anything was written, it would be a mistake in writing. It was never a CATIA model. CATIA model is a very, very difficult model to make. You don't do it at a tender stage.
So, Dr. Affan, let me clarify this with you.
Please.
In order to secure this contract,
Yes.
You wrote in your formal tender proposals about the main facade, the outer finish, you
Yes.
described it, and then you said, we have completed a CATIA model of the panels, see below, with proposed panelisation.
Was not correct.
Well, that's a very serious admission, is
No.
it not?
Is my lady friend going to show the witness a full page, including the words below this?
By all means.
The next page, below the image.
I think this is a matter for
No, it isn't,
re-examination.
because the panelisation, as you know, is the words under the image.
Would you please allow me to cross-examine the witness? I'm asking him questions.
Yes.
I'm asking him why it is that he said, we have completed a CATIA model of the panels, see below, with proposed panelisation.
The
When the
proposal-
truth is, you had not completed a,
No,
a complete
Definitely not.
CATIA model.
I have checked our records of every single computer program we had. There's only one computer which actually creates CATIA model. We checked on the records. The first CATIA model initiated by Affan was on the 7th of March 2017, and that was based on instructions by the main contractor to follow panelization issued by the architect on the 2nd of March.
On the 7th of March, what you issued was revision 3 of your model.
It was
You're
the first
saying that
CATIA
was
model.
the first CATIA model.
Do let him finish.
Yes, of course.
Yes, I have just checked, literally, when I saw this one here, I went and I checked personally. The first CATIA model issued by Affan, that was on the 7th of March, was not this model, was a different model you had showed as well. And that was based on instructions received from BAM after the letter of intent, asking us to follow a modelization initiated by the architect. And we have a
you
record of every single receipt of that model from BAM, as well the way we issued that model to BAM.
And you have no idea why this mistake was made in the presentation of your tender proposal.
It's just maybe to impress the architect that we are very keen and we are capable. No more than that.
So you were representing to the architect that you should be awarded this contract because you'd already made a CATIA model.
No, that was never the case.
When you hadn't.
That was never the case. You have put words in my mouth which are incorrect.
No, I'm asking you to comment because
I'm
you've
commenting, I said that's not the case, and that's my comment.
you've said it a moment or two ago. It was just made to impress the architect that we are very keen and we are capable, no more than that.
The architect was not our customer. Our customer would have been BAM. I'm not impressing the architect. I'm not impressing the employer. That letter was issued to BAM.
Dr. Affan, that may be,
That is the case.
but BAM was under contract.
They have
to
not
the
issued a
employer.
contract to us.
The employer was relying on his architect to advise him. The employer would have a very strong say
Okay,
in the
are you
choice
trying
of
to
contractor.
insinuate to me?
Is that true or not? The choice of subcontractor. Is that
Could we
true or not?
repeat again?
Your evidence a moment ago was that you did this to impress the architect.
I did not say that. I said would have been a slip of the tongue to impress. That's what I said.
I'm going to scroll it up because it's very important. Stop. They just made to impress the architect that we are very keen and we are capable, no more than that.
In other words, I was not trying to impress the architect. I do not have to impress the architect. The architect knows me very well, and that's why he chose Affan.
So what did you mean when you said it was just made to impress the architect?
That means when we say CATIA model, means that we have really spent time to study his proposal.
But it wasn't a CATIA.
No.
Your Honour, I'm sorry, I don't want to interrupt the question. But paperless trials do depend on witnesses being shown the documents properly. there is something just below the image at the end of 917 which the witness cannot see. Can he please be taken to that? At the bottom of 917. Just under the image.
Let's just have a look at that.
Oh, I'm very happy to do so. I was going to take him to that.
Well, you should have done that
Well,
to start.
No, I
let's
shouldn't.
please. Let's have a look.
The panels will be formed from advanced fibre layouts and bonded with fire-rated resins. The panels of main facade are proposed to be 9 metres by 2.2 metres in size, with double curvature to achieve the required outer surface.
That model does not show that. If that
That
is,
model doesn't show that.
no, that
That
means
doesn't alter the fact that you were saying to the main contractor, who is going to pass it up to the employer,
fair enough.
who's relying on somebody you know well, Mr. Killer, a reputable architect
Yes,
with a huge project,
it was his
that
first
you,
project.
that you, as the proposed facade subcontractor, have made a CATIA model which shows you to be more capable, more diligent than you would otherwise look, in order to impress the architect, so that his advice would be, this chap, Affan, has done a really good job on this.
It was stated actually in the letter of intent is correct. In other words, what was not based on the fact that we made a CATIA model, because he changed it.
Well, I have your answer. Now, what do you say this model is, anyway?
I think it's a picture just to show interpretation of the different surfaces created by the architect, and we wanted to see what the different surfaces, because at every level it was a different surface architecturally. So I cannot rely on the same panel being repeated twice. That would assist.
I'm sorry, you're really going to have to explain that, because most of us in this room have seen this building and looked at it.
Right. If you look at the building,
First of all, it's not
yes.
a coloured building.
No, that's for sure. It is, the building is made of many different surfaces. It's not the same curvature at every single surface.
Of course not. That's the whole elegance of the
And
tours.
that what it shows, the different locations of different curvatures. So what you see yellow here is actually the same curvature. What you see blue here is actually the same curvature. What you see green here is the same curvature. What you see purple here is the same curvature. What you see at the very dark blue at the top is the same curvature. That's how the architect created this design.
And your company created this model?
No, we just colored it.
You just coloured it in.
Yes, we did not create it. We don't create models, the architect creates models.
I want you to think about this.
Yes,
Do you feel proud of your company's behaviour in telling the contractor that you'd made a CATIA model when you hadn't? What you'd in fact done was coloured in a model that you derived from the architect.
was nothing actually point of view. What is the purpose of it? I did not feel any proud or less proud or more proud. We're just trying to tell them we are interested in the project. That was all.
Do you know of a single document whereby the architect provided the base material for this image?
No, I did not receive it by that
Have
time.
you checked it?
I would have checked and would not have received it because it was sent to us officially on the 2nd of March as instructions from BAM to follow.
When did you realise that the statement in the tender proposals, we have prepared a CATIA model,
Only
was
yesterday,
untrue?
the day before yesterday, when I saw it. It has no bearing on whether we get the contract
And you
or not.
didn't think to notify your opponents in this litigation?
There's nothing special about it.
Coming back then to Exhibit 1, please. You'll see there that the lines that are taken across from the floor levels, green, thin, horizontal lines, align almost exactly, there are some differences,
Almost.
with the floor levels shown in what we believed, until you told us otherwise, was a catcher model.
Yes. Almost.
And you see that the proposals for panelization there clearly, as we suggest, align with panels going floor to floor.
I would like to ask you the different question.
Don't ask me a question.
Okay, that is not correct what you're saying.
Then answer the question.
The question is that the dark blue model did not follow the floor level. Neither the red one at the top did not follow any floor level. So you insinuating that you are following the floor model is incorrect.
Which colours do you say it's wrong about?
The dark blue at the very top.
The one that goes all the way around the outside.
That's right, it doesn't follow any floor model.
Would you look now, please, at the diagrid?
Yes.
And what is shown on the right-hand side is structural steel coming from the right-hand edge curvature, some way across, but not the whole way across, the torus.
Correct.
Is that because the diagrid has been truncated, it hasn't been shown for the whole of its length, or that it's only present at the edge of the torus?
I did not understand your question exactly.
Well, you'll see that the diagrid only comes along to the vertical piece of steel that runs, I haven't got grid line marks, but that runs to the right of the steel that looks like a ladder.
What do you mean by steel or by diagrid? The diagrid is a steel.
Yes, exactly. But you'll see that there is a lattice work structure upholding the floors, holding up the floor slabs.
Correct, that's
On
a
the
diagrid.
right-hand side.
That's a diagrid.
Yes, that's the diagrid. Do those horizontal members of the diagrid run further to the left, or do they stop where they're shown stopping?
I'm not so sure because there was interruption with the lifts in between. They had no objection. These floor level were actually, the diagrid was supporting the floor, not
Yes.
the other way around.
That's
And
what
the building has no columns. That is what's so special about this building.
The building has no
Columns.
columns. I understand that. If the panels do not span floor to floor, you could never achieve the outcome that was wished with 950 panels, which was the number of panels that your company envisaged.
Not necessarily.
Why do you say that?
The
It has to be joined, the panels have to be fixed to the diagrid.
No, it doesn't have to be. You calculate the total area of the facade, which was 17,000. 9 meter by 2.2 meter will be about 20 square meter. You divide 17,000 by 20, you come up with a number of 950. Or
That I understand.
That is what it is.
But
No more than
if
that.
if the panels were spanning between the midpoints of the floor levels, you'd come up with far more panels, 1,900 on that back of the envelope calculation.
It was in the IFC where we interrogated it, was about 2,445 panels. That is the instructions came from the IFC, which we were awarded the contract on.
Would you look, please, at 938 to see what you said in these tender proposals? You said the 2D shop drawings will provide all typical details, that is plans, sections, elevations, connection details. And by connection details, and we'll see this in other documents, you meant connection to the diagrid.
Correct.
So it's wrong to say that you didn't propose to connect to the diagrid.
The diagrid was also at 4.5 meter levels. You can connect anywhere you want on the building. The building was strong enough to connect anywhere you want. It doesn't have to be at the floor level.
And would you go on from that and read the next sentence, please?
Yes. By the way, just for your information, the 700 panels was also wrong.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, I was coming to that.
Yes, just because if you, by simple calculation, you come up with a different number. So there is a potential that you, in our proposal, that there was mistakes. It was not intentional.
700 panels was not possible.
Well, if you calculate...
Not at 9 by 2.
No,
and
not
2
by 2.
nominal.
That's not possible. Simple as that.
And you signed this document off.
Yes, I did. It was not
Did
prepared
you
by me.
think about it?
It was not prepared by me, actually. It was prepared by Paul.
Well, you're not calling Paul, are you?
No, there's no need.
But you're giving evidence now
I am.
as the managing director of a company for which you're responsible,
Yes,
tendering for what everybody thinks is a flagship project.
it is.
And you were in the tender proposal saying you could do it in 700 panels, when that's patently nonsense.
Correct. Anybody could see that. And if somebody just followed this one and said, you make it to 500, and so had said, okay, well, you're going to get 17,000 square meter. You don't have to be Einstein to do it.
No, but you're supposed to be closer to Einstein in engineering, most of us.
Yes, but I know people make mistakes. Alex, that doesn't work.
Let's go on. Due to the calligraphy, each panel is unique.
Correct.
That meant all the panels had to be made separately,
Correct.
and there had to be moulds for every panel.
Correct.
I want now, please, to look at Exhibit 1 again. The drawing to the right, which is drawing 301, is an IFC drawing.
Yes.
And that is the drawing that shows where the dimensions vertically between the floor slabs have been written in red.
Yes.
And it might be helpful, operator, if we had this a little larger so we can struggle a little less with these. May we have this blown up, please, on the right-hand side. No?
Okay. I don't blow up, but continue.
I think it's going to happen. Therese is sorting it out. Therese, would you blow up the right-hand side? Thank you. Green as snow. So the dimensions that have been written on there have been written on by the experts in this case.
Yes.
And the red dimensions emanating from Mrs. Kinderland, go clear.
Yes.
And we see that those vary. The bottom slabs, except for, are all between 8 and 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 levels, but varying quite widely. But the top slab is only 5.1 something meters.
Yes.
The blue dimensions follow the curvature.
Yes.
And the blue dimensions greater than 12 at the top right-hand corner, then 8.5, then 10.9, then 9.1, 9.9, 13.7, and 17.6. And that is because the curvature of the torus.
Yes.
And it is quite plain, is it not, that although over the whole torus that may come to a representative figure of 9 metres,
It doesn't.
well, I suggest that it comes to more or
It
less
doesn't.
that.
You just asked a question, I said no.
This is a side of the torus where actually they tend to be bigger
Maybe.
because of the
Maybe.
way the curvature
Yes,
works.
they did.
And some are smaller.
Yes.
And we'll be hearing evidence from Ms. Kinderland
You can.
that overall the panels show an increase in length of about 10% and a decent width.
It varies, but it was not
Varies.
a typical. You said very clearly it was not a typical panel, and each panel was unique.
I accept that
So why are you trying to say that all the panels are the same?
because it's been suggested on your company's behalf that what was intended by your specification of 9 by 2 was that that was a maximum size.
It is correct.
But it plainly isn't.
No, you can be. I could easily make it in much less than 9. It's very easy. You could, because the diagrid is so strong, you could support at any point in the diagrid. I repeat that several
I
times.
think you're at cross purposes here. Can we just take it stage at a time? Number one, what's the maximum size of panel that your machinery at the time you tendered could produce?
9 meter by 2 meter.
That was the maximum size at that time.
Yes, to
You
reach
had
that
to
center.
buy additional machinery
Correct.
to produce larger. I'm sure you'll come to that in
Yes.
due course. So at the time you could only produce 9
Correct.
9 by 2.2.
I would like
Was
to.
it envisaged
Yes.
that then you might use, as it were, 2 of those panels to, for example, if we look at the lowest blue figure on this exhibit 1, can you see that? I think this is probably just above the mound, and it's if one's doing a whole curvature, that will need a panel of 17.564. Can you see that?
Yes.
So how would you approach that if you could only produce that time?
It was actually 2 panels.
You'd use 2 panels?
Yes, we did actually, and that's the initial proposal by us was 2 panels. We went back to the architect, and he insisted, and we bought additional machine to meet that. And just for your information, we actually supported at the mid-span.
But nowhere have you presented a proposal or a proposal of any sort that shows 2 panels between floors.
Never been asked.
Furthermore, if you didn't have panels that ended at the top and bottom in the same place, which I suggest would be naturally the floor slab, because you've already got the stronger diagrid there, the whole panelization would be higgledy-piggledy, if you know that expression.
I understand, take your point. I would like to also, you asked the architect, at one point, he wanted to have a separate panel just covering the slab alone. That would be 1 meter panel, just for information. That
Do you
was
want
a
to answer
discussion.
my question?
My question behind it is not correct what you're saying.
If you had 2 panels everywhere, for a start, they wouldn't be 9 by 2.2, would they?
They never said that. I said the maximum panel we had was 9 meter by 2.2, and we were very specific. We made panels were 6 meters as well as part of the building. Doesn't mean that we could not make it less, or we could not make it bigger.
Dr. Affan, I'm going to ask you a very simple question.
Please do.
You have a degree from the UK.
Yes, right.
You have a PhD from the UK.
Correct.
And I suspect you've used English as your natural language,
Not really, I'm Arab.
Arab, but you've used English as as your commercial language for most of your
Most of the time, yes.
practicing life. You presumably speak fluent German, do you, as well?
I do.
The word nominal does not mean the same as the word maximum, does it?
No, it does not say that, but we were very specific, even on the width of that panel. And we never at any one point suggested that we will go above 9 meters. The
But-
tender document which we have received, as well as the IFC, as well as the letter of intent, refers to less than 9 meters.
Does
Every
it?
single document we have received.
It refers to less than 9 meters.
Yes. Otherwise, there would not have been 2,445 panels in the letter of intent, as well as the IFC drawing.
We'll come to that.
Mr. Boyle said it very clearly. He had signed a contract on almost 3,000 panels.
I'd like you, please, to look at page 1076. This is your pricing summary of the £125,000, 125 million dirhams
Yes.
of the 14th of February 2017. And that is following a meeting between Mr. Foster, who was he?
He was the commercial manager of BAM on site. Mr. Dokan
And
confirmed
you, and Mr. Haslam, and Katya Pastro was
that. Our commercial manager.
your commercial manager. And you set out the payment terms, and you look forward to meeting the letter of award. This is following a meeting that you've had attended by them all.
Yes, I have.
And you knew by this stage you were expecting to get the contract.
Yes, I did.
Would you look, please, now at 1080? This is the letter of intent. And that's dated the 2nd of March 2017. And I'd like you, please, to read through the top paragraph and also the scope of work.
Right.
And when you've done that, would you please tell His Honour?
Can I
What-
ask you one question?
Yes, of course.
Could you please go out on the same document to the
No,
second
no,
page?
I'm going to cross-examine you. If you want a question to clarify my question, that's
Okay,
fine.
I'll clarify a question. Please ask a question.
What I want you to ask you is, having looked at the scope of work and the introductory paragraph, I'd like you to tell His Honour what you thought was the design development responsibility under the contract you were being offered.
The design responsibility we had regarding to making the panel, how to design it, the thicknesses of the panel, how you attach it to the die grid, in accordance with the instructions of the letter of intent, as in accordance with the drawing, IFC drawing that we have received.
We'll look at the...
Design is not only panelization. Design means the thicknesses of the panel, the return of the panel, the number of layers in the panel, the stability of the panel, the attachment of the panel. That is more important.
would you look, please, at page 1083. And go down a little. So you see there, paragraph 16, subcontract agreement. Notwithstanding the provisions of clause 15, this letter of intent will be automatically superseded upon the contractor and subcontractor entering into and signing a formal subcontract agreement in respect of this project.
That's correct.
So you knew the letter of intent was a stage on the way to
Correct.
getting a subcontract.
Yes, I did.
And you also knew that the letter of intent, as the penultimate paragraph makes clear, supersedes any previous instruction, correspondence, or other discussion between us, and represents the entire agreement between us in relation to its subject matter.
Absolutely correct.
And you were asked to acknowledge your unconditional acceptance of this letter of intent and your agreement to proceed in accordance with its terms and conditions by signing and returning the attached acceptance
Correct.
statement. Would you go now, please, to page 1087. That is the numbered document register, and that refers to all the documents that would make up the conditions of your
Correct.
acceptance of the
Yes.
letter of intent. And they included first the main conditions of the contract, the conditions of the main contract. And at 4, the index of tender documents, which were the IFC drawings.
Yes.
And you knew in broad terms that you would have to ensure that everything under your subcontract was consistent with and supportive of the main contract.
Yes.
Would you go, please, to 1095? And rotate it, please. And look, please, at line 252. That is the drawing that was at the right-hand side of Exhibit 1.
Okay.
And that showed the almost exact alignment. You've drawn 2 exceptions, one I think for the red colour and one for the dark blue around the outside, between the floor slab levels and the...
So what was the page number for the drawing? I'm so sorry.
Is it possible to show me the drawing? It would be much easier for me to see that.
Show you the Exhibit 1
itself.
again. I'm
That
sure
would
that's
be
still...
fine, yeah.
The drawing, you do the page number for the drawing, please.
Page number for the drawing 301. I think it must be here, but I'm not sure where it is.
You asked us to show it and rotate it, but we didn't. Oh no, that was the other one.
That was on the... Part of the drawing is the drawing that's on Exhibit 1. I've
Yes.
never taken out the
You
drawing
wanted the
separate.
whole drawing, and
You want the whole drawing?
Yeah,
Yes,
please,
you
if
didn't
can.
give us the reference to that. I'm sorry.
We're on, it's 3:15. It may be sensible to...
if you'd like to find it, that's
Well,
fine.
I think Ms. Kinderland is going to see if it's in the papers. It may.
It,
may
is,
not.
no, it definitely is in the papers, but I can't remember where it is. Yes, I will rise. I'll rise then for. We'll have a 10-minute break now.
Thank you.
I'm not allowed to talk to anybody.
You know that. Good. Well done. Okay, so we'll come back at, let's say, 25 past. Okay.
All rise.
Yes, but we
You're allowed to go to
only
coffee, you're
Exhibit
allowed
1.
to go to the toilet.
He's asking to see just the drawing 301. You can find it. Thank you.
receiving a version of it in Word, obviously for us to be making changes to that that will be agreed between. Would you like somebody to say the judges?
Thank you.
No, community.
So,
Yeah, no, that's fine.
so this is the full structure.
Please confirm whether the copy is ready. All rise.
Yeah.
Sorry, it took a bit longer than I thought.
Well, productive in one sense. We can say, I think, with some confidence that drawing 301 isn't separately unbundled.
Oh,
So
okay.
we're open to make. Not all the drawings are. Some drawings have been exhibited.
I thought we'd seen it an opening, but there we go.
I think only in its truncated form. It's exhibit one.
So this drawing is not in the bundle. Well, it is.
If it's important, it must be somewhere, so we can see. What I do want to ask you is a question arising out of the proposition that the panels in the IFC drawings didn't exceed 9 meters. I'd like you please to go to, in the electronic bundle, folder 9, and then in folder 9 there's a subfolder appendices, and then there's 03 appendix B, and then documents. It's about 4 or 5 down. There's one where the operative number is 906. And the other numerical reference to it is I5268. That's the document. Now, this is one of the IFC documents.
Sorry, you've lost me slightly.
So, electronic bundle.
Yeah, no, I've got that. I'm in the Appendix B document.
Well, then if you go down the drawings,
Yes.
and I think I remember it's the 5th one down, but certainly the
906.
operative number is 906.
906. Okay, I think we've seen
Sorry,
that.
Jon, if it helps, this is one of the drawings, just by coincidence, that's in...
Yeah, we have seen it, and yes. Thank
It's
you
at
very
tab
much.
6 of the opening bundle.
Yeah.
We've got spare copies.
That's great. Thank you.
Tab 6.
That would have saved some trouble.
So bear with me, I'll
Thank you.
give... is that unmarked?
This is a document issued by Bureau Happold. And it has Killer's
Tab 6.
logo on it as well.
I can see that.
And if you go down to the bottom where it says 5 extracted models showing curvature,
Yes.
that needs blowing up, that bottom part. And the right-hand corner needs blowing up.
Ah, okay.
This is effectively advice as to how the panelization process should work.
This is the 3,000 panels.
It's a 3,000 panels there.
Well, it's a number of different panels depending on how you look at it.
And they were faceted as well. If
Would
could
you
look
like
at
to listen to the question?
Yes.
Sorry, I interrupted.
I'm so sorry. Do you see the potential module sizes options dependent on contractor design? Now, Dr. Affan, I think that there is now no controversy about that. Contractor design means, in this instance, subcontractor design, because you've taken over the subcontract for the design development from the contractor. You accept that. This isn't BAM's responsibility, it's
What
yours.
do you understand by the name design? I would like to ask you that question.
Well, your council can make some submissions on what the word design means if you wish.
Design means thicknesses of panel, the return of the panel, the way you attach the stainless steel to the panel, the way you attach the panel to the building. But it is not about the architectural appearance of that panel.
So your evidence that you're inviting His Honour to accept is that design doesn't in any sense involve what the panel looks like, what the size is, the way the panels are arranged on the facade.
That is the architect's design. That's not our design. That's
Well,
the architect's decision.
Dr. Affan, there'll be some argument about that.
Yes,
I
it is.
suspect. Let's look at what the engineers are directing. Panelization process steps. Preliminary subdivision of facade surface along horizontal diagrid members.
Yes.
That's first of all saying you've got to divide the whole facade horizontally along the diagrids.
I can see that, yes.
Do you think that affects the appearance?
Yes. That's what it is. That's what they said they would like to.
Secondary transversal subdivision to achieve panel size within the maximum allowable limits by main UAE suppliers of GFRP and close to single curvature configuration.
Yes.
In other words, you can achieve any panel size if you are the subcontractor.
You didn't say that.
No, that's what it says.
It says according to the,
Provided that you stick within the maximum allowable limits in terms of who you can get the GFRP panels from,
And close to single curvature.
and close to single curvature
yes,
configuration.
I can hear
I
that.
think why close to single curvature configuration? All the panels were going to be double curvature.
No.
Established.
This was single
A
curvature.
few moments ago, you
did offer.
you agreed.
I
that-
offered, but that is
One at a
single
time. I
curvature.
mean, you've got to speak one at a time, otherwise it doesn't really get on the transcript.
Repeat that question, please.
A little while before the break, you agreed that all the panels were to be double curvature.
That is our proposal.
I think the next item,
And the next time, sorry, Susan,
I was going to say, I think the next item is pertinent to that, isn't it?
manipulation of the panel geometry. This is again the contractor's responsibility. That is the subcontractor here.
Where does it say that?
It's at 3 in the bottom right-hand corner. To minimise the deviation from single curvature within an acceptable tolerance for the manufacture of the stainless steel cladding is undertaken.
Okay.
Panels are single curved with limited areas of minimal double curvature.
I
In
fully
other
agree with
words, if I can put my interpretation on it, you were right to say they're all going to be double curved in your proposal, but that you're to keep the double curvature to the minimum so that the principal appearance will be single, but you'll have the double where necessary.
that. Correct.
And if you now look, please, to the left of that, the tall panel, and would the operator blow that up, please? That's the bottom centre. Thank you. That shows panels which are 9 metres optimal. There is then a mark for the width, which I can't actually read, but it may be that it's 4 metres max, and it's 3 metres, 3,000 millimetres optimal. That's the crosshatch area. And the tallest is 22 metres max. This isn't, of course, to scale, which is why they say scale not applicable. And 4 metres max width.
Yes.
And GFR potential module sizes / options, brackets, dependent on contractor design.
And have said very clearly that we could make 9 meter by 2.2 meter. It was very clear from day one.
You are now
I
saying
am saying
9 by
that
2 by
this
2.
is here, that we have looked at it, yes, we are aware of it, and we told them this is our qualification, this is what we can produce.
Are
And
you
this is within the here, and if you look at most of the panel, or 2,400, hardly any of them exceeded 22 meters. You could look at the, you could question the model itself.
Well, we'll go a little further. On the 14th of February 17, this is 1076,
Yes.
you had a meeting and you reduced your pricing from 135 to 125
Correct.
million. And if you then go, please, to 108,
1080.
1080, I'm so sorry, yes. That's the letter of intent which we've looked at, the first page. But I want you to go to the top of 1081 now. This letter of intent enables the release of an advance payment in an amount of equal to 10% of the subcontract price. It's 12.5 million dirham. Until a subsequent subcontract is executed, the maximum liability of BAM under this letter will be 12.5 million. And then the terms and conditions of the subcontract agreement should be mutually agreed based on BAM's conditions of major subcontract and the terms of the main contract, which we discussed. I showed you in the letter that it was necessary for you to sign the letter,
I did.
and you did sign the letter.
Yes, I did.
And indeed, you'd have to sign the letter because you were going to have to put in place a performance guarantee and an advance payment guarantee. And you'd have to go to your bank with a signed letter to show that it was binding in order to get those put in place.
Yes.
Going back for a moment to 180, uh, 1080, I'm so sorry.
108.
Mark
Okay.
1080.
Yes.
At the towards the below scope of work, under subcontract price, you can just see it at the bottom. Nearly there. No. Stop. There we go. The agreed subcontract price will be the 125 million and shall not be subject to remeasure.
Yes.
And you understood what that meant?
There was no increase in the quantity. It's a beautification only. The building did not change.
Following the letter of intent, there was a commencement date in the subcontract of 23rd of February, which was also the commencement date that was written into the subcontract.
We have received this letter of intent on the 2nd of March. That
Yes.
would not have been in February.
And on the 21st of February, you had started coordination meetings.
We were observant to a meeting coordination between Killer Design and the main contractor. It was not Affan had not received a letter of intent on that date.
I just can't hear you.
Affan did not receive a letter, was not even appointed on that date.
I quite appreciate that.
And that was the reason.
Before you accepted the letter of intent, so your status was as observers only.
That's correct.
And in March, you started work on the design, and your initial panelization model, which we now know was revision 3, was presented on the 7th of March.
Correct. And it was based on instructions of a model issued to Affan on the 2nd of March. And we have a copy of that instructions that came from BAM showing us the panelization that they had achieved with Killer. It was not related.
Are you saying there was a written instruction
Yes?
dated the 2nd of March
Yes.
for you to ignore the drawings and produce a particular design on the 2nd of March?
Correct.
You'll find the document on the 2nd of March. Can you find the document on the 2nd of March? 2017, yes. No, it isn't. 108. The 2nd of March is the date of the letter of intent.
Correct. It came as a separate instructions by email through Equinix, which is the official line of communication between BAM and Affan, in which BAM instructed Affan to follow a new model finalized by the architect prior to you being appointed. And that model was issued to you and shown by our council on the opening.
Did that model, did that direction take into account a Katia model?
There was no Katia model at that time.
Well, you'll be re-examined on it, so I'll find it tomorrow morning. But at the moment,
You're welcome.
you're taking us by surprise because there's nothing in the bundle to that effect.
We have issued it, and it is in the bundle, and if I may ask my counsel to present it to you.
Well, your counsel will present it to me if he feels good and ready.
It's the, in the opening bundle. Sorry, anyone who's got the answers.
Where do you say it is?
The opening bundle at tab 14.
1014.
So it's that bundle in front of you, Dr. Affan. If you can open that bundle, go to tab 14.
First one or the second one?
The first one, please.
File 1 of 2.
File 1, tab 14. And 15 and 16.
Yes. You'll be very happy to see it.
So this is an email that
It
sends you the BIM models, which are the business information models, building information models, I'm sorry.
it was through Equinix, yes.
Well, Equinix is only the method of sending it, isn't it?
Yes.
And this sends you a great many models. I mean, a great many drawings.
Yes. But this particular drawing came specially. And it's the only drawing referred from the architect.
And it says, please find attached issue for construction BIM models for your information at page 6.
What I was taken to in opening, if it's any help, is actually page 5.
And page 5 says, we hereby forward issued for construction BIM models volume 4 for your information and action. Are you giving evidence to His Honour that this supplanted the IFC models and the letter of intent? Is that your evidence?
Yes, it is.
Was it accompanied by anything else?
No, but it was a normal course of action. We had received it for the next following 3 months. Instructions through Equinix to change things.
I'm sorry, say that again.
That was the first communication officially after Affan had been appointed as a subcontractor. We received the letter of intent, and that was the first instructions to crack on with this one here.
And are you saying that that was inconsistent with the letter of intent the same
No, I
day?
did not say that. I said that was the instructions came from the client to follow. That's what I said.
We've looked at the letter of intent, and I'm going to take you to it again at page
Yes.
1080. As I understand it, you're now saying that this letter of intent and the provision that the subcontractor shall fully develop the design and that any further required work shall be deemed to be included in the below mentioned subcontract price in order to fully complete and hand over the works to the satisfaction of the employer and its representatives and to achieve all required local authority approvals is supplanted by an email that sends you some drawings or sends you some BIM models.
I am saying that correctly, what you're saying?
So what did you write back?
Yes, we follow it up and we issued the CATIA model.
Did you write it back?
No, we issued the CATIA model on the 7th of March. It's instructions.
Why does that change your acceptance of the 2nd of March letter of intent?
Did not change it. We just said it was, we have to design. It doesn't mean that you make a panelization. That's an architectural issue. I said it to you many times. I could design the building in 10 different ways.
Can I just get the chronology slightly straight, Dr. Affan, if I may?
Yes.
Mr. Moranti told me that a CATIA model takes a lot of building.
Yes.
So when did you start building this CATIA model?
On
Did
the
you
2nd
issue?
of March.
So it took 5 days?
To provide the first initial panelization because it doesn't include everything.
Okay, because I think he said, if I recollect his evidence, that the model involved 60,000 drawings.
Yes. When you develop it fully, yes.
But it wasn't fully developed by
No,
the
it was
7th.
just copy.
He also said that it takes 4 months to build.
It takes longer, I think.
So the
This is only a
question,
panelization. There's nothing
the
to about
question
the
I'm
design.
inviting you to answer is what is there in that email that happens to be sent to you the same day as the letter of intent
Yes.
that displaces the terms of the letter of intent?
It's instructions.
But you said doesn't change anything.
Not really. You changed it. It said, I want it to be like this. Okay, that's what you want. That's what you get.
So it was just a suggestion as to how you might like to develop the
No, it was not
panelization.
suggestion. It was it's instructions. Pure instructions based on a model issued by the architect.
Dr. Affan, do you understand the point I'm making to you?
No, I don't.
You accepted the letter of intent, what, a day or two later?
No, it's the same day.
The same day. That imposed on you the obligation to fully develop the design.
Please understand what design means.
Well, there's a dispute with it.
That's right.
Okay.
So please.
The dispute is that you say design has nothing to do with what anything looks like.
That's
It's
right.
only to do with the structural
Correct.
engineering.
How to
side.
build it.
So that you know where we are, I will be submitting to his lordship, to his honour. The design includes what the normal person thinks of as design, meaning it's nicely designed, it's badly designed, it's well designed, it looks good, it looks bad.
Okay, if that's the case, why would there be an architect, may I ask you, if he does not actually initiate the design? I did not come up with this building. I did not design this building. I did not panelize this building. I did not tell him what it looks like.
You knew perfectly well, did you not, that there was then going to be a cooperative process with your company, BAM, the architect, the engineer, all getting together and working out how the design should proceed
That's
to be
exactly.
developed.
But this is, as I said to you, it is an architectural issue. That's the very first thing. It is not for Affan to tell them, no, you cannot build it this way here, or you have to change your panelization. It is the architect in the form of instructions. It is about the appearance of the building, not about designing the building.
At any rate, on the 13th of March, there was a facade steel coordination meeting, which is an important meeting because it's pleaded. Do you understand what I mean by it? Things are pleaded?
Yes.
Because I'll be corrected if I'm wrong, but the email of the 2nd of March finds no place in your pleadings.
I don't know, I have to ask my
Never,
counsel. I cannot
never
answer that
suggested
question.
that it's relied on.
I don't understand that. If that's the
The
case,
first
then
we heard of it was in opening, if we were
it
careful to follow.
was, that's what we have received, essentially. And it's consistent with the letter of intent.
So we'll go on, please, and look at 1162. This is said in your pleadings to be the crucial meeting on the 13th of March, 11 days after the letter of intent, where everything is supposed to have changed, and the panelization and calligraphy are dealt with at minute 3.
Yes.
Now, Affan various staff attended, and I take it you weren't there either, Mr. Fernando wasn't there.
No, I would have been there.
You would have been there.
Yes.
You remember this meeting?
Yeah.
So why doesn't it say that you attended where
So
everybody else is
there was
named
many
except for
various
your
staff.
staff and Gyprock staff?
Because we had many people there attending from Affan.
At any rate, so be it.
That's a
And
question for the person who did the minute.
it is. But what is a legitimate question for you is why do you not say anything in your witness statements about this crucial meeting upon which so much reliance is placed?
I didn't see any relevance to it. My crucial statement is about
So the-
beautification and the hexagonalization, and about the impliant by Mr. Doyle that I was what do you call it, fraudulent and here. That was actually my response to my witness statement. It's
Well,
not
you've had
about that.
4 witness statements now,
Yes, I do.
including the 3rd and 4th, which are much wider than the issues that were before the court when the case against you was considered.
I did not see that, to be honest. It is a normal way of operation. We received a model from the architect, we develop it, we discuss it, and we got series of instructions to change. And this is normal. And if there's any change, we will tell them there's a change.
So what is said in this minute is the response to RFI.
Just for your information, just would like to tell you, this is about the calligraphy, it was not about the panelization.
Well, it says panelization/calligraphy, and we're going to look at it if you
Yes,
don't mind.
okay.
The response to RFI states that the Rhino model is to be followed regarding the final calligraphy layout and extent of all glazing type, and so forth. BAM presented the outcome of recent workshops on panelization. Agreement had been reached with Sean Killer, that's the architect, on the location of larger panels up to 9 by 6 meters to rationalize the layout. Upon further review with Miras, however, these panels have been deemed too large. There are now 4 options of panelization: Killer preferred, Cote, diamond shape, and heptagonal scheme. BAM and AFN are working to complete a pros and cons table for each option. Now, you were there. You knew that the minute said, because presumably you were sent it since you were there,
Yes.
and you remember what was said, that BAM and Affan are working to complete a pros and cons table for each option.
That is very
See
true.
attached facade presentation.
I would like to answer that question correctly. On the 2nd of March, we received instructions to follow a panelization sequence. On the 7th of March, we issued our first CATIA model to BAM. On the 13th of March, that CATIA model was the basis of that discussion. And it will be very clear to you that it was driven by the architect how he would like to see the panelization. And it was, you can see that suggestion. He is the one who is driving all these changes in the presence of BAM.
What is very unclear to me, Dr. Affan, is why you were solemnly on the 13th of March sitting at a meeting with all these expensively paid consultants discussing how you were involved in considering 4 options with BAM, working to complete a pros and cons table, and we'll see the result of that in a moment, when the whole thing on your evidence, as I now understand it, had been decided by an instruction on the 2nd of March sent to you in an email.
Okay, it was decided, but there was changes. The changes were coming every single week. Every week there was a new change. Whether it is a panelization, whether it was calligraphy, whether it was a different location, whether it was a steel, these were changes instructed by BAM to follow on the advice of the architect and the client.
Let's go to the last sentence. Once all parties are satisfied with the panelization, which suggests that they're not yet,
No,
the process of sitting with the CATIA model, which accurately reflects the reveals in the calligraphy, to make necessary tweaks, will begin.
correct.
You know what a tweak is?
I do.
Now let's go on, please, to the workshops. And if you go on from this document, on from this page, you'll see the workshops follow.
Yes.
You need to carry on to the end of the minute, and then below the minute there is a report from the panelization workshop. Here we go.
Just before we leave this document, and just for the record to square the circle, the reference to that document at the beginning of this minute 3 links into that Aconnex that we saw a moment ago, which I said had been referred to in opening.
The 2nd of March.
2nd of March. That document was transmitted by that Aconnex on the 2nd of March, and that's what was said in opening.
Yes. Now looking at this document, there is in this document an expression or a description of the pros and cons of the 4 options. So this must have been actually produced a little after the meeting of the 13th of March, because the minute says that
show
you're
me
working
the
on it.
date. It should be a date on it.
Well, this is undated.
There should be an Econex date on it. There is nothing called undated.
We'll have a look at it, but we know it has to be after the 13th of March if the
Okay,
minute is
please
an
do
honest
that.
one, because the minute is saying that you're working on it,
Yes, we were
and
working.
we see it here. So go down the page, please. So this is an agenda that includes at the top design concerns. You would regard them as not design concerns at all, but as engineering concerns
Design.
or architectural concerns. But there we are.
With many issues, because every time you change something architecturally, I have to check that it is
Let's go-
engineering possible.
Let's go down a little. Could you go down from there? You'll see number 2 there is panelization. And we had a structural picture, and then we have, there's the structural picture, and then we have option 1 and option 2. And if you go down the page a little, you'll see there's option 3 and option 4. Option
Yes.
1 comments, and then later option 3 and option 4. And then we'll come back to them. Okay, so option 3 is rhomboid, 4 triangular panels. Option 4, hexagonal, and 6 triangular panels. Let's go back up again and then to the top. Sorry, John. Down 2 pages, operator, I'm very sorry. And one more. So those sketches, which are written on in handwriting, printed handwriting, I've been through with Mr. Moranti, and you saw what they say.
Yes.
Those appear to be suggestions that probably come from Mr. Killer
Yes, they were.
for relatively minor tweaks
Definitely not minor.
in the design.
No, definitely not minor.
But they certainly don't involve a radical change to the pictures shown in the email of the 2nd of March,
No, there was a change.
one that you rely on.
No, there was.
You agree with that?
No, there was a major changes.
They're different.
They're different.
They bear
I mean,
much
they were
more
coming
relationship.
There's more relationship. What is he trying to tell me? He asked me if it was a
Okay.
difference. Yes, there was a difference. That was all.
It's a big difference because these tweak, as I call them, and as the architect called them, on the sketches, tie in particular to option 1, but also to option 2, much better than they tie in to your email.
Actually, no.
Is that right?
No.
As far as your email is concerned, which you say was a clear instruction and you rely
You
on
can
it,
read it here. You can see it here.
there was nothing in any of your witness statements about it.
There was no reason.
There was nothing in your pleading about it.
I didn't see any relationship to that.
And there was nothing in your skeleton argument about it.
That's not correct.
Do you think that was mentioned in your skeleton argument?
Ask the counsel.
Well, we'll have a look at it. Option 1 was the killer preferred design, and it still spans the floor levels, but as you see, it's quite clear that the sizes of individual panels are going to vary, as is the curvature.
Yes, it's always been the case.
Let's go down. Shall we go down a page, please? So, option 1, killer design comments. Regarding the horizontal joint lines, I do not know why they're not following the floor levels. It was clearly the architect's intent that there should be a correlation between the panel tops and bottoms and the floor levels.
That was his decision.
Not just it was his decision, but what Mr. Killer is saying here is he obviously thought it was obvious and he didn't know why you weren't doing it.
That was not the case. We don't look. We
Oh,
do
why
not
not do
follow
it?
obvious things. We follow instructions. And the instructions came from BAM, our client, and it was the instruction by Killer. We are not here to design his building for him. We are here to construct his building for him.
The internal complications of visual overlapping panels should be done within the spandrel panel, then only in the necessary glass supports 1.5 on the z-axis. 3, their horizontal joints at floor level. Enlargement of the horizontal joint and glass supports need to be considered in parallel with the panelization. Affan need to draw 1 to 10 wall sections with steel diagrid and 1 to 5 or 1 to 2 junctions at the same time as evaluating the panelization, requested twice in previous meetings. Now, first of all, do you remember the 2 requests at previous meetings for those details, those drawings?
We have received many here. Sometimes it takes longer time to achieve that request. It doesn't mean that it's just a press of a button, I could just fulfill your request. It takes time to re-measure, to check, to make a drawing. It doesn't mean that just because you give me a request, tomorrow I'm going to come up with the answer. It could take me 3 months.
Did you do what was requested?
Yes, it did, always.
And where do we find that?
I don't know, I did not see it, that's the first time. It must be some of the Econex because they eventually approved it.
It is also critical that the horizontal joints also align with the diagrid on the roof, which may not be the case at the moment.
It was changing all the time.
Aligning with the diagrid on the roof means that the panels are going to vary in size, doesn't it?
Yes.
And we go on in relation to the roof. Smaller length roof panels are probably possible. Reference to your comment below. However, I'm assuming that Affan are trying to reduce horizontal roof joints for waterproofing the roof.
Could well be.
Would that not cause a difference in size of the roof panels?
We had instructions to change, already changed everything in the building, and we, for that purpose, we purchased 2 new machines to be able to achieve his requests.
I'm going to come back to the machines in a moment. If this is possible, then the panels need to be studied in terms of span, transport logistics, and getting under 5.5 metre bridges if there's significant curve in the panel, assuming the panels will be transported on their sides. If this is possible, then the long, approximately 12 to 16 metre roof panels are viable, then the fewer joints on the roof is better. Width of lanes 3.5 metres, so early morning delivery should be possible. And Mr. Moranti explained that you can take
Yes,
more through the
correct.
roads in Dubai.
Mr. Moranti at that time, he was more involved in this project than I was.
Wider panels at Atrium need to be studied and limited for dual lane transport. Wide panels around the Atrium area make some sense due to less finishing work at height of the reveals. Logistics needs to be confirmed. Regarding the panels, some areas have improved from option A, especially removing the staggered horizontal joint in the void. I suspect the horizontal joints will be more visible and therefore have to have primary logic. Vertical joints will be less visible and need to follow. The attached 6 markups show a smoother transition between some of the panels around the void. The solution is curving the panel slightly in the direction of the joint above. Affan to consider these.
There was instructions to consider them, please.
When you got these comments, you were at this meeting.
Yes.
Why didn't you pop up and say, what about the 2nd of March email?
It was always a changing. We knew that. It was proposal, instructions to follow it. It was not the final. We were
So-
here to have approvals.
It may be that there's the difference between us is this, that 2 differences, 2 chief differences.
Yes.
I'm putting to you that this was all part of a process of developing, we'll call it the model to use a suitable word, a neutral word, in collaboration between you, architects, engineers, and owners, and BAM.
It is a process of developing. This is followed in every single project. We develop the model technically on the instructions of what the architect would like to see. This is a normal process. We do that in every single job. So in other words, there was nothing normal or abnormal about what they were instructing. The only differences behind it was instructions, and you have to follow it. And these instructions were given to us.
Do you understand the difference between an instruction, which is an order, and a discussion, which is a mutual attempt to reach a solution that's acceptable to 2 parties?
To be honestly, in our business, there is no difference.
In your business, there's no difference. Is
No.
that your-
Instructions is instructions. Either you do it or you don't do it.
And your evidence, as I understand it, is that the 2nd of March email amounted to instructions
It
to do
was.
something different from what was shown in the IFC drawings.
Very clear.
And then you come back to the meeting on the 13th of March with the report on the workshop panelisation, the panelisation workshop meetings, and you think there are different instructions given here.
Every single week we had different instructions.
Well, what are the instructions here? What do you get out of KLD comments? Explain
KLD
that,
comments,
please.
please check this one here. I would like to change my design. Is it possible or not? Simple as that.
And by your design,
His design,
all
not my
you mean,
design. Just remember.
you said you used the words, do I change my design? Is it possible or not?
Yes, that is Killer's design, and we have to actually engineer it. Is it possible to engineer it? Is it possible to support it? Is it possible to make it? That's what it was. That's what we were doing. But did not tell him how to construct his building, how his building looks like. I did not make it.
So when he says he's assuming that Affan are trying to reduce horizontal roof joints for waterproofing the roof, that is going to change the look of the building, isn't it?
Yes, and he refused it.
But you were perfectly entitled to contribute that to the
I
discussion.
could contribute, but it doesn't mean that he accepts it or not. I have no design liability towards his appearance of that building.
And
The
then
architect.
the 6 markups show a smoother transition between some of the panels around the void. This is number 5.
Yes.
The solution is curving the panel slightly in the direction of the joint above. Affan to consider these.
Yeah, all the time we've been asked to consider many things. Every single time, every single week.
I appreciate it. Okay, let's go on. Can we go down this exhibit further, please? Keep going. So there is the panelisation summary overview
Yes.
with this meeting where everybody's been considering this, and 3 and 4 under study rather means that they're on the shelf.
They call the rain screen.
They're the rain screen
Yes.
options, and the GFRP options are 1 and 2,
Yes.
and 1 is the one that wins out in the end, and is the one that you had really already tended for, and aesthetic preference of the architect and client good, avoidance of secondary steel work not required. Not required secondary steel work means that you didn't need extra diagrid numbers.
No, the argument was sufficient.
The existing diagrid was sufficient.
Yes.
Buildability and ability to
in
follow
line with
installation
the-
of the
So I
diagrid.
don't speak at the same time.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Buildability and ability to follow installation of the diagrid was said to be good. What did you understand by that?
Exactly what it says. Buildability and ability to installation. That's what I understood. Buildability and ability.
Doesn't that mean, in view of the fact that you know that Killer want to see the diagram aligned with the floor levels, mean that you're going to go slab to slab?
He instructed us to do that. Yes.
Let's go on down. It's right, isn't it, that at this meeting,
Which is the meeting you asked?
the meeting of the 13th of March.
Yes.
You never said anything to BAM or to Killer or to anyone else to suggest that this might have an effect on the price.
I did not know at the time.
And you knew that the development of the design was on the basis that nothing was going to change the design apart from an instructed variation.
At that time, it was too early to even assess what the impact of the cost would be. We were not finished. If I tell you something today, it doesn't mean that next week it changes and it will be another price.
Will you look, please, at page 1221? This is from you to Miras.
Yes.
And this is the issue for approval of your panelization models.
Please,
Revision
these
date 26th of
panelization
April.
were issued on instructions. And we issued that because we had the model to issue it. They did not have the CATIA model. So we get instructions every meeting, and we issue it the next day and whenever it is completed. It doesn't mean that we had proposed it.
On your evidence, what does it matter who proposes it?
It depends. If it's instructions to change or we did it, it's different. I did not propose it. You decided to change it. You take responsibility for it. I don't take responsibility for it. If that's what you want the new building to look like, you decide, not me.
I'd like, please, to go to the AESG report, which is in the bundle. It's folder 9. In the electronic bundle. And the I number is 5261, but I think we're up there. And I want to follow the review summary. You've seen this report before, haven't you?
Yes, I have.
Sorry, what am I?
Starting at page 25.
This is the first report.
No, this time I have
This is
not
the
seen
first
it.
report.
Dr. Affan, please, just let me find the document first of
Okay.
all.
First report, Your Honour.
Yes.
I-5261. It's a folder 9 in the electronic bundle.
And the internal page,
And the internal page I'd like to take you to is 25,
25, thank you.
paragraph 3229.
Thank you.
And you've seen this before.
Only when the council asked you 2 days ago to send it to us. Otherwise, we have not seen it.
No, he's confused. He doesn't know what the
You have not issued it to us. It was an internal report between BAM and its client.
This is a report for the purpose of these proceedings.
That's the first time I see this report, if that's what you're asking the question.
This is the first time you've seen this
I
report.
have seen the report 2 days ago when our council requested it from you officially.
Jonathan, why
And
don't
you
you
sent
take him
it
to the
yesterday.
first page? He's thinking about the documents that arrived yesterday.
Yeah.
Why don't you take him first?
This is a document that dates. What's the date on it?
It's the technical expert report.
It's the technical experts report
Sorry, John.
in these proceedings, and it's dated the 16th of May
I
of
have
this year.
If that's the question, no.
And you're saying, are you, that you, as the client, have not seen
I personally
this
have not seen
expert's
it.
report,
That my client,
even though you're
counsel-
a party to these proceedings.
Okay, go ahead. I'll answer the question.
Well, it would be unfair to ask you to
I will ask
consider
you if I
this
can
blind.
answer it. I will answer it. If not, if not.
So you're going to be in the witness box tomorrow morning,
No problem.
without a doubt.
Yes.
So I suggest that you read this overnight,
Yes.
and I will ask you questions about it.
No problem.
Sorry, it's a bit unusual to ask a witness to read a technical expert report. If there's a particular factual point that the witness
If you would like to
wants
see
read,
it, let me know
I
what
do
it
think
is.
this is a bit unfair.
Well, number one, it's rather surprising that the client hasn't seen the expert's report, particularly if he is a very highly qualified engineer himself. And indeed surprising that he would not have given instructions to the engineer who's reporting on his behalf, because this is the first report, and the engineers thereafter met. But putting that to one side, the fact is that Dr. Affan has said he's not seen the report. It is only fair that he be given an opportunity to read it before he's asked any questions about it, it seems to me.
I'm in your honour's hands. We will give him a clean copy. That, just so my understanding is the witness was not taken to the opening page. You obviously heard that he thought it was a completely different document.
He did think it's a different document. I'm not criticising.
Yes.
I'm not criticising him for that. I'm just expressing surprise that he's not seen the report before. But be that as it may, he's particularly highly qualified himself to understand what it says. It's unfair, I think, that he should be asked questions about this document until he's had an opportunity to read it at his leisure. And I think that is what Lord Marks is suggesting.
We'll give him
Well,
a clean
indeed
copy.
it is.
We'll give him a clean copy to take away.
Yes,
Your
I
Honour,
think.
I'm sorry to assume he'd read it. I did assume he'd read
Well,
it, which
he
is
may
why
well
I didn't
have.
take him to the first page. Honour, it's 4:30. I don't know whether you'd like to pause there.
Okay, that probably is a good point to rise for the evening in that case. And we'll reconvene again at 10 o'clock. Dr. Affan, as I think you said you've been told, you're not meant to discuss your evidence.
No, but I'd be happy to read the
with
report.
anybody. Your lawyers will give you a copy of this expert's report. Does he need the second report as well?
It would be sensible that he should have it, and indeed the joint report, it would be sensible that he should
Yes,
have it.
okay. Can that be done, Mr. Hussain?
We will email it to you, Dr. Affan,
Please do.
in a clean report.
Yes. Of all people, you'll have no difficulty understing these, unlike us lawyers.
I just surprised he asked me if I read the report. I said no.
Well, you may
Okay.
find that you have read it.
Okay, well, whether you've read it or not, hitherto it doesn't matter. If you've read it before, refresh
Maybe
your
I have.
memory. If you've not read it before, then you've got a treat ahead of you. Okay, so we'll see you all tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock. Thank you.
Why don't you collect your stuff so we don't have to disturb you in the,
Okay.
in the meeting room, and we'll email you the document.
Yes.
You can leave that there. You can use it tomorrow. him leave first. Give him 5 minutes. Yeah.
You said this was mentioned in your skeleton. I don't know where search can find it.
Okay. Why don't you read my opening? What I said was is that it is wrong to say.
Oh, in your opening?
Yeah.
Oh, I remember you referring to it. You said it was in your skeleton.
I didn't. The witness did. You're aware of that,
Because I put it to him that it wasn't in his skeleton.
right? So can I? I'm not the witness, am I? You can't ask me what. Why did the witness say so?
No, I didn't. Okay. No, it's not suggested. That's the witness's answer. It wasn't. But it was mentioned by saying that is actually. And he took it for he took the judge to the words as he found. We can go. Well, we can just put that aside. Whatever we think. Okay. Do you want to tell me?
Yeah, it's gotten a lot louder after lunch. It just got louder and louder.
Yeah, I think it's the aircon, and they turned it off for a while.
Yeah, but then it got quite warm.
Yeah.
But it's a lot louder this afternoon
I've
than it
never
was.
been so cozy.
It's on your side, I think, because it's not that bad our side. But
Sorry,
it,
I'm
it's,
not allowed to wear my wig to keep me warm.
oh, you can put it on. But it was a lot louder this afternoon than I remember it being. And then obviously this witness is a bit quieter, so I was.
And then they turned it off, so they're doing like really hot, and they put it on again.
No, Paul told them to turn it
No, I
off.
just wanted to check.
That's when it got warm, because otherwise you couldn't hear him.